is a little different than the previous times we've talked to you. The first reason being, I'm a little sick. So you see, I didn't shake his hand, not because I don't like him, but I don't want to infect you all. So I didn't come through and high-five everyone as I normally do, and I'm going to try and keep my distance a little bit. But all that said, we're here together. And this is awesome. So how many of you got to see that video first thing this morning on the Better Together Summer? Team did a great job on it. It is now premiered. It is live on the interwebs. So please make sure that you like, you share, because it's really an encapsulation of who we are, of our values, of the work that we're doing. And it has been a terrific summer. So with your help, with all of your help, we've done extraordinary things during our so-called Better Together Summer. We have knocked on over 100,000 doors. You have knocked on over 100,000 doors. We've raised money, though I see the treasurer of the party over there and she will say, not enough money. And we will continue to talk about that. We've connected at community events, dog parks, music festivals, union barbecues, flipping endless pancakes. And most important, we have connected with Albertans. Oh, and before I forget, since last we met, we also won 2 by-elections. By the way, the Alberta New Democrats had not won a by-election since the year 2000. And as I look out at the room, most of you were not born in the year 2000. But for those of you who were, you might remember that one. We have now won 3 of them. And I'd actually like to just take a minute and talk about those by-elections and the importance of them in the work that we've been doing. So from the moment that I entered the leadership race in March, I think it was March 11th, 2024, until June 23rd, 2025, there was not a moment that Alberta's New Democrats were not in an active election campaign. I love elections. Too many elections in a very short period of time. But we came to the table, you all came to the table, and we did incredible work. We proved that with the help of Shannon Phillips and the amazing team that she developed in Lethbridge, Lethbridge West is no longer just a Shannon Phillips seat. Lethbridge West is an Alberta New Democrat seat. And in so doing, we managed to elect the extraordinary Rob Miyashiro, a terrific MLA, to our caucus. In Edmonton, well, let's talk about Edmonton Strathcona for a moment. We had a really subpar candidate. Guy didn't show up for anything. Hardly did any door knocking. And he was a parachute candidate from Calgary into the heart of our movement in Edmonton Strathcona. But I'll say very seriously, the love and the welcome I got from the heart of our movement in Edmonton Strathcona was extraordinary. It was incredible, and any naysayers, anyone who doubted that the heart of our movement was strong, were pretty much shut up on June the 23rd, when in fact we achieved within 1 percentage point of the highest voter turnout we've ever had in Edmonton Strathcona. With a subpar candidate. But the one I really wanted to spend a moment on was Edmonton Ellerslie. Edmonton Ellerslie, for those that don't know, is a demographically unique riding. Not unique, demographically interesting riding. It is exactly the kind of riding that Conservatives federally and provincially are targeting. And certainly in the federal election this spring, we saw that Conservatives made huge inroads into these sort of suburban, middle to higher income, ethnically diverse ridings. And in fact, Edmonton Ellerslie had almost 100% overlap with the riding that the former mayor, or the current mayor, almost former mayor of Edmonton ran in and lost. So the UCP threw everything they had at Edmonton Ellerslie. They needed to win that riding because that's the kind of riding they need to consolidate their base. They spent so much money, they worked so hard, they had cabinet ministers through there every single day, and guess what? We smoked them. And we elected the extraordinary Gurtesh Singh Brar as a new MLA to Edmonton, who's going to do such a great job. So not bad. 2 great MLAs, 1 subpar candidate, and we won 3 by-elections, and I should say you won 3 by-elections. Every one of you were out on the doors. Every one of you were doing the work. And I also want to spend a moment and talk about Olds Didsbury Three Hills. A riding where nobody gave us a chance. And we tried something new. Let's get the best candidate we could possibly find. Let's spend some time and resources on that riding, and let's get out to rural Alberta and show them what our offer is. And as a result, with the incredible Bev Taves, is she here? Is she here? There she is. Give us a wave, Bev. With the incredible Bev Taves and that unbelievable team, we achieved the highest voter turnout highest voter share we have ever gotten in Olds Didsbury Three Hills. These are strengths that we will continue to build on. So we've had a great summer. We also had these 11 incredible community gatherings in big cities and small centers, from Lethbridge to Grand Prairie and everywhere in between, where we achieved thousands of Albertans coming together to talk about how they could be better together. Now, you may recall that the guys on the other side perhaps have not had such a good summer. They also did a series of these town halls, which were, shall we say, more heat than light. Of course, you all saw what happened on Monday with that intensely brave 17-year-old kid from Sir Winston Churchill High School in Calgary, Evan Lee, told he should be slapped and beaten for having a slightly different opinion, or not even having a different opinion, he didn't express his opinion, for daring to question Her Highness and her government. That's the difference between them and us, folks. That was not a one-off. That wasn't something that only happened to Evan. That happened at every single one of their town halls. Citizens were insulted, citizens were belittled, and citizens were silenced. And that is the fundamental difference between them and us. At the beginning of every one of those town halls, I didn't like calling them town halls, I called them community gatherings. And at the beginning of every one of our community gatherings, I made it clear that everyone was welcome, that it didn't matter what your opinion was, you were there to talk to your neighbors. And we tried something very important during those sessions, which was, they started as a response to separatism, and I'm going to talk a lot more about that in a second. And the pun, right, the pun of the name was, Alberta is better together with Canada. But what we quickly learned from hundreds and thousands of our fellow Albertans, neighbors, strangers to the party, people who felt the need, a cri de coeur, a cry from inside them to stand up for Alberta and to stand up for Canada. And what we learned in talking to them was that those words, better together, meant so much more than just Alberta is better together with Canada. People were desperate for a chance to stand up with their neighbors, to speak out for the community. And in these divisive and angry times, in these times where politics tells us that we care only about ourselves and not about our neighbors, in these times when politics tells us that things will never be better than they are today, and as such, we have to fight for every crumb because those people, whoever those people are trying to take those crumbs away. At times like this, Albertans are rejecting that thinking. Albertans are saying that is fundamentally un-Albertan. Because Alberta is a place where we dream big. Alberta is a place where we think big. Alberta is a place where we are never stopped by the limitations of small minds. And ultimately, when we stand with our neighbors, we are better together. I feel like I should just end right there and go to questions. But that was slide one. I did not use ChatGPT this time, for those of you who were in the room the last time. Maybe I should have. Might have been more succinct. But this message from Albertans was so consistent. Danielle Smith and the UCP have the wrong priorities. They're not focused on the things that Albertans care about. So for those of you who were at one or more of the community gatherings, you know that we did a couple things. Number one is we let people vote on what they wanted to talk about. And it was sort of funny because they all voted on the same things every single time. Except it changed when we got closer to the school year starting and education jumped up the list, and we'll talk about that in a second. But the message that we got from folks, we said, vote on what you want to talk about. This is not about serial monologues where we just hand people the microphone, as we saw in those other town halls. As we saw in those other town halls where people would say the most shocking, hateful things about immigrants, for example. And the premier and her handpicked panel wouldn't challenge them. They only challenged the 17-year-old kids who dared to ask about teacher strikes. They would just smile and nod. And it's very, very clear what is going on. This government is trying to distract us from the very real concerns that Albertans have today. This is their strategy. Their strategy is to create as much chaos as humanly possible in order to make sure people don't actually look at their track record. And that's what we have to fight against. So let's talk about some of these issues. Of course, the number one on everyone's mind right this minute is public education. So let me tell you, and you've heard me say this many, many, many times, everything I am, everything I have, came from public education at the base. I'm looking at my friends from Calgary Cross here, the place where I grew up. And growing up as a poor kid in Northeast Calgary, anything could have happened. I worked really hard, and my family worked really hard. But I would be a fool to say that hard work is what got us our success as a family. A lot of people work hard. What got us our success as a family is that we lived in a community that invested in us, in a community that wanted us to succeed. And back in the early 1970s, again, no one was born in the early 1970s in this room. Back in the early 1970s, the government of the time set an audacious goal. They said, Alberta, this frozen place in the middle of the prairies with barely 2 million people, will have the very best education system in the world, the very best public education system in the world. And we did. I graduated from Queen Elizabeth High School in central Calgary, which, because it was located in Alberta, was one of the very best public schools in the world. As recently as 2018, Alberta students ranked in the top 5 in the world in math, in reading, and in science. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens because government policy values public education, because governments value the people who do the hard work every day in public education. So at a moment when classroom sizes have never been larger, when classrooms have never been more complex, at a moment where, despite the fact that we're the richest province still, and Danielle Smith will never admit, because she wants you to be angry all the time, she will never actually say we are the richest province. But at a point where we are the richest province, we spend the least per student on public education. Yay! And instead of treating education assistants and teachers fairly, instead of valuing their work and understanding that they are the cornerstone of everything we built as a community, this government chooses to enact book bans. This government chooses to ask every girl over the age of 12, just the girls' mind, not the boys', to prove their biological sex to try out for a school team. These are nothing but distractions. Let's do some quick polling in the room. I do love my data. How many of you had to either sign or know someone who has to sign that horrifying form so that your child could participate on a sports team? How many of you are worried about the terrible things that might happen if kids aren't exposed to books that gasp the government might disagree with? It was kind of fun, though, that the Edmonton Public School Board put Ayn Rand on that list. The Premier called it vicious compliance. She meant to say malicious compliance. That might have been a little naughty, putting that one particular book on there, but it worked. Now, most important, how many of you are worried about what happens when 51,000 of our fellow Albertans who are teachers walk off the job on Monday? How many of us stand with those teachers? So here's the most shocking thing. I still learn a lot in this job, and I learn a lot from watching this government. And at the beginning of all of this, because let's be clear, the government could have settled this strike months ago. Months and months and months ago. They could have done it at budget time back in February. And they chose not to. And I thought it was because they were playing chicken. I thought it was because they were playing brinksmanship and they wanted the school to be back in September and the teachers would never ever strike. But then they still didn't settle. And in fact, the Premier for the last few weeks has been like quoting right out of How Not to Win a Negotiation 101. She has trouble getting to the ends of books, see Brexit. But she's been saying the cupboards are bare, that we have to choose between paying teachers fairly or hiring more teachers. But this is a choice this government has made. They chose to fund public education at the lowest level in Canada. And I've been asking myself why, and I just figured it out. It was not 7 years ago that Danielle Smith wrote a column saying there should be no public education. That in fact, we should dismantle government schools and their government unions. And then I realized what's really going on. I cannot be more plain than this. Danielle Smith wants this strike. She provoked this strike. She thinks she is Margaret Thatcher, and these are the coal miners. Now, I've seen the movie Billy Elliot, so I am an expert in the coal mining situation in the 1980s. She wants to break the union, and she wants to break public education. So I'm saying right now, Premier, you are not Margaret Thatcher. And these are not the coal miners. These are Albertans who will stand up and fight you. They will fight for the teachers, they will fight for the parents, and they will fight for every single kid who deserves the public education that I got. We stand with teachers, we stand with parents, above all, we stand with students, and we stand against this government. Now, much to my own surprise, I'm already getting the 5-minute warning. Slide 3. I'll whip through the rest of these. It's not just about education. We all know about healthcare. We lost the first Albertan to the measles outbreak, and we still haven't seen the Minister of Primary Care and Prevention say those simple words, get vaccinated and get your kids vaccinated. Nearly 1 million Albertans are without a doctor. The health ministry has been hacked up at enormous cost. We're increasing drug costs for seniors and for vaccines while we're facing a massive affordability crisis. Speaking of that affordability crisis, Danielle Smith claws back payments for people with disabilities and tries to distract from her straight-up cruelty by talking about separatism. I have it written down here that she is a master distractor. Sounds good. But that also makes it sound like she's good at it. And the point is, she is kind of good at it. She does distract us a lot. But that is her only strategy. We've talked a lot this year about cuts, chaos, corruption, and cruelty. And that is really the strategy of this government. You've heard me say before that I have never seen a government so disinterested in governing. They just want, and that is the other difference between them and us. If you strip them down to their very core, what is it they believe in? Only one word comes out: power. They believe in power for the sake of power. That's the difference between them and us. Because while we grow our movement, as Lauren was saying, as we get a bigger tent, as we get good, healthy policy disagreements within our movement, the one thing we never forget is the one thing every single one of us shares. Our core is not power. Our core is making this place better for every single person lucky enough to live here. Our core is fighting for the dignity of every single human being, and our core is understanding that it is not just possible but necessary to create a community in which every single person has the chance to thrive. That's what we do. That's Alberta's New Democrats. But the best thing about this summer was really the fact that we were reminded of how resilient Albertans are, who Albertans really are. Albertans are not the funhouse mirror caricature that the Premier likes to portray us as. And Albertans have had enough of this government, and they are ready to fight back. So our message to Albertans is very, very, very clear. And it is, there is only one way now to get a better Alberta. And that is to elect a better government. So friends, that's our job. We got to get ready. We got to get organized. We got to be bold. We know that we have the better policies. We know that we're not afraid to set big goals because Albertans deserve a government that works for them. We once had the best education system in the world. We will have it again under an Alberta New Democrat government. That involves fully funded classrooms, fair wages for teachers, support staffs in every school. It means family doctors for every Albertan, shorter wait times, ERs in your community that stay open, and no fees for essential vaccinations. It means a diversified economy that attracts investment rather than scaring it away. Investments in the trades and youth employment programs and summer employment programs in focusing on growing the economic engine. I'm going to say what I always say, and I think all of you understand this, which is, when we talk to Albertans, when we are at people's doors, you know what we always hear. We know you guys are better on healthcare. We know you're better on education. We know you're better on caring for people. But
what about the economy?
So here's your answer. We are better on the economy. A government that scares away foreign investment and domestic investment, a government that turns the CEO of ATCO, a very staunch conservative, into someone who says, I'm not investing a penny in Alberta until you get rid of this separatism garbage. A government that has presided over the highest unemployment rate in Canada outside of Newfoundland. A government that has seen youth unemployment reach record levels. And a government that has no economic plan is no conservative government at all. These people are lousy with money. They presided over a nearly $15 billion turnaround in the fiscal balance of this province in 1 year. Danielle Smith has increased spending in 2 years more than Alberta's New Democrats increased it in 4 years in government. Are you feeling it? Are you feeling a better education system, a better healthcare system? Or is all that money going to corruption, lining the UCP's friends' pockets, and unbelievable incompetence in government? So that means that's the case we have to make. There is no being shy about this. There is no saying, well, you know, the economy will be okay. We've got to be loud and proud and clear that we are better on the economy, that we are the party of jobs, as I said at convention. The party of workers is, always has been, and always will be the party of jobs. And we are creating an Alberta where everyone can thrive, minimum wage that keeps up with inflation, support for seniors and people with disabilities, no more clawbacks, no more cruelty, just dignity, respect, and actual help. But we don't win just because we have better ideas. We win because of every one of you. You are the leaders of our party. You are the heart of our movement. And we win because of you. We win because you knock on doors. We win because you show up for our days of action, 2 of them coming this fall. You win because you help us raise the money we need to compete. We win because you have conversations with your neighbors, your coworkers, your unions, your families, and you are the advocates for the future we're building together for Alberta. One of the most common questions I get from supporters is, what do I say? How do I have these conversations? I feel like I don't need to tell you in this room. You know what you're doing. But how do I talk with people who might not be our supporters? So we're helping you. We're building out a guide. Those of you who were at the community gatherings will have seen the little passports that are conversation starters on separatism. The number one thing you can do today is download that and share it widely on your email lists, your WhatsApp groups, carrier pigeon, whatever. Share it widely. And we're building you another guide, which is a toolkit to help you talk about our values, our policies, and our vision for Alberta, because every single conversation matters. And we will continue to help you build out that work, because this is worth fighting for, friends. Our classrooms, our hospitals, our seniors, our families, our future, this great nation, they're all worth fighting for. And the third thing that differentiates us from the other guys is simply that. We know the world is not perfect. We know this country is not perfect. It's big and messy and bruised and battered sometimes. But right here on this sacred ancient land, we have created the best place on earth. And that is worth fighting for. And that is exactly what Alberta's New Democrats are going to do. Bring on an early election, bring on a late election. Bring in every kind of legislation that allows the Conservatives to raise more money than us. We are ready. Bring it on, Danielle Smith, because this is exactly what Alberta's New Democrats are going to do. We are going to fight for Alberta, and we are going to fight for Albertans. So, my friends, let's stay focused, let's stay united, let's build the Alberta we all deserve, and let's remember that we are always, always, always better together. Thank you all. So